Okay, everyone. For deafness, my group and I decided to choose a novel called True Biz by Sara Novic. Um, Sara Novic is a deaf author, and the title True Biz is really cool because it's sort of an expression used in American Sign Language to demonstrate like no kidding. If you guys are doing student teaching, I guess the kids nowadays would say no cap, and that's what true biz kind of means, which I thought was cool because it's funny how different languages use different kind of like word phrases to make expressions that are like in the kind of like Anglo vernacular, which I really appreciated. So the story is written to be a like a teen coming of age novel um, about three primarily three characters who intersect at this school for the deaf, and kind of takes the style of a mystery. The three main characters include Charlie, a girl who is deaf, and the child of two recently divorced parents. Charlie has a cochlear implant, which are the hearing aids that are kind of installed into somebody's head. At one point, these types of implants used to be really invasive, and they still are more invasive than a hearing aid. But they now have like much less scarring and whatnot involved. Um, and Charlie has just recently decided, been transferred into the school for the deaf. Um, and through that, which is called River Valley School for the Deaf. Um, Her transfer kind of sets off this chain of events between not only herself but also Austin, who is a child of deaf adults. His mother is deaf, his father is not, but he comes from a family with a long line of deafness, and he takes a lot of pride in that. And is an ASL speaker. He is a signer of ASL, whereas Charlie has worked on her speech skills to be a speaker. And this kind of really interestingly gets into this what I found to be the most compelling part of the book. This just sort of like deaf culture and how through deafness this language ASL has been created, and you have these different kind of like mentalities within the deaf community. Some people who want their kids to be able to hear and try to use new technology to bring them closer to hearing through cochlear implants or hearing aids, whereas other people feel that deafness should be embraced and that American Sign Language is this beautiful language that has grown out of deafness and through this awesome community. And that's what Austin kind of represents, whereas Charlie's family represents sort of the opposite. But as she is doing not as well in what would be considered more of a general education setting, they decide to transfer her into this environment. Not really thinking about some of the just normal stuff that teenagers face that is making her a little more rebellious. Things like, hormones, the recent divorce of her family, um, just kind of being a rowdy teen. And Austin's a little more of like a golden boy. And the third person that kind of intersects with them is February. And February is the principal of the school. She comes from a family with a deaf mother, so she is ASL fluent. Um, but her mother recently, has been kind of onboarded into her home as she is struggling from dementia. So each of these characters is sort of dealing with a lot of struggles. Austin's struggle is that his family is about to have a new baby. He at first is extremely excited about the new baby coming into the household, but then eventually, as they discover that the baby actually can hear, he is a little dismayed because he thinks that his father is excited about that and so almost like taking the side of his hearing able sister, which eventually you find out that she actually is deaf. But it kind of creates this rift in the family where Austin, who has identified really strongly with American Sign Language and with kind of like a deaf pride, his kind of thought processes are challenged. And the book is really kind of told like from it starts off with the disappearance of Austin, Charlie, and a few other students. In February, the principal investigating their disappearance. Um, and so it kind of starts there, and then reverts back to when Charlie, first enrolls at the school. Um, so it's very much a teen drama, which I thought was really cool because it kind of shows that deaf children, deaf teenagers are dealing with a lot of the same problems that just non-deaf teenagers are facing. There is, there are some instances of alcohol consumption, some drug use, some underage teen sex. So, those are things that I would definitely be aware of if you were going to read the book or if you were going to present it to children in your classroom settings. But they aren't really like glorified or crucified, as I would say. They don't really show it as being a good or bad thing. They kind of just talk about how kids like find themselves through their teen period. Whereas like most of teen dramas are usually very plot heavy, and the teens are usually kind of filling standard like roles. This was actually a little bit in the reverse. Charlie in particular um, is very complicated. There are points where she's very likable, and then there are points where she is very unlikable. Just like any other kind of like edgy teenager. But most like teen dramas are more plot heavy, whereas this is kind of more of a character piece, which I thought was interesting. But it also did kind of slow the book down for me until kind of like the last act, where they're presented with this issue of the deaf school closing, being slated to close, and the students feeling that this was due to technological changes from a local factory that produces cochlear implants, hearing aids, and other prosthetic devices. And the kids kind of hatch this plot with this kind of group of rebellious teens to blow up the actual factory. And I don't really want to give away the ending because I think people should read this because it is a fun book to read. But it definitely kind of ties back into the questions of culture that have kind of grown out of adaptations to deafness. Um, so it's funny because my favorite part of the book, I would say, is actually throughout the book. Throughout the book, there are kind of displays of American Sign Language. So like they just will throughout the book have almost like tutorials on how to sign different things, and I thought that that was really cool. It also breaks up the momentum a little bit, but for a teenager, that sometimes that might be a good thing. It might be good for them to kind of come up for air, so to speak, from the text. Um, Another thing I liked was actually some of the ways that grammatically the book was written and kind of like edited. So, normally when people are communicating like through, voice, and it's expressed in a book with parentheses and quotation marks. So in True Biz, that is not the case. There is very little quotation marks for actual speaking. Instead, there is a lot more grammatical awareness of when people are signing, which I thought was really interesting. They would kind of like indent or italicize when the kids or the people or the adults were signing to each other. And I thought that that was actually really awesome because it kind of flipped the script on me and it made me have to be a little more aware as a reader, which it kind of from the standpoint of somebody who is deaf in the quote unquote real world, they have to be more aware of what people are saying through like lip reading, writing, signing, stuff like that. So I thought that that was a really interesting choice that was made, that I really enjoyed. I thought it was super cool. It took a little getting used to, but once I did, I thought it was just a really compelling choice. Um, as far as things that I didn't love, I was really excited when I found out that Charlie's roommate Kayla was black. It kind of like I didn't realize up until one of these chapters. It's kind of like a side chapter. There are some chapters that are kind of isolated, like almost like just like their own like individual stories in a story, and some of them were kind of dull. Some of them were kind of funny, but Kayla, who's Charlie's roommate, when I found out that she was black, I was really excited because I wanted to learn more about, sort of how African American vernacular in